What's up, everybody? Hope you are doing great over there in YouTube land. I haven't given you guys an update with the Chevelle lately, so let's go ahead and do that today. We're completely changing the setup. A whole bunch of things are getting changed. So let's start explaining. I'm gonna break it down for you guys and tell you why I'm doing these changes and how the car's gonna run. Boom! Twin turbos, baby. These are the Turbonetics billet ball bearing turbos that are off of the Apache and that were on the farm truck. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys know that I had the farm truck for a while, and these are the turbos off of those trucks. These are 69, 68 millimeter billet ball bearing turbos, and there are the RG45 wastegates. Now, as far as the intake goes, obviously we don't have the supercharger on it anymore, so I elected to get a Edelbrock ProFlow XT intake with a nice 90 millimeter throttle body to let air in. Headers are a nice, cheap, simple CX Racing set of China headers. Now here is a couple places where I ran into issues mocking everything up, and I'm still putting everything together. We're still mocking stuff up. Determine that the hot side fits, wastegates fit, turbos fit, the hood. Oh yeah, by the way, that's another spoiler alert. I'll show you guys later. The hood does fit, but originally I wanted to go with an air-to-air intercooler, and there are two different types of intercoolers: air-to-air and water-to-air. And all intercoolers do, their only job is to basically take the heat out of the compressed air that's coming out of the turbochargers and exchange it with ambient air or water in a tank, if it's water to air, so that it cools the air and we get cool, dense air going into the engine. So I'm going to show you here. Here was the air-to-air intercooler. This thing is massive, okay? Now, my first kind of idea was to fit it down in here behind the grill in front of the radiator, but I didn't really do too good of a job measuring. So when I got the thing, I tried fitting it in and it just wasn't happening. I again took more measurements, which I should have done in the first place, and kind of discovered that I have to totally hack the front end of this car up, which I don't want to do. So the next best option is to go to a different style intercooler, the water-to-air intercoolers. And as you can see, there's a little bit of a size difference. Here is the water-to-air intercooler right here. Now, compressed air from the turbocharger flows in one side, either or. It flows sideways through it, and it comes out this way. Now you see here, we have water ports, one there and one there. We have cooled or chilled water that gets passed through a core in here. Now, actually, I'll show you right here. I don't know if you could see too well, but there's a core in there. And water flows through that, exchanging the heat out of the hot air, making it cold air. While as with an air-to-air intercooler, we mount this up in the grill, so when we're driving, cool air goes through the grill and goes through the intercooler and chills the boost, you know, the pressurized air going through there. So that's just kind of a quick explanation on how these guys work. The beauty with water airs is that they're much more compact. Now, since this is a twin turbo deal, we have to run two of these, one for each turbo. And I kind of already sat one in here. I think I found a good place. I don't know if I'm gonna stand them up like this or kind of, you know, lay them down like so. Here we go. We might lay them down there. Whatever fits best, whatever looks decent. Then I can obviously fit one over here. We'll have to relocate the horns, but anyways, that's kind of where I'm at right now with this project, and it's going good so far. We're gonna get this stuff, you know, mocked up. We're gonna build a couple of brackets for them and get the intercoolers mounted. Now, here's another piece of the puzzle that we gave a little bit of attention to. Here's a transmission out of the car. And believe it or not, this is one of the only pieces on this car and out of my truck that has never given me issues. Knock on wood. I hope I didn't just jinx myself. But this is a 4L80E, the early model 4L80E, and we just went through this thing. The entire time it was in my truck and in the Chevelle, it was bone stock with just a shift kit and the like a Jake's Performance manual valve body, like little box, like an electronic box. Still the stock valve body, but all that did was basically allow us to manually shift the transmission. So now we have a trans brake in the transmission. We have a 300M billet input shaft. What else? High energy clutches. It's a pretty well built transmission. We still have the stock output and stock intermediate shafts, but this trans should be able to hold 4-digit horsepower all day long in this car. So there we go. There's the billet input shaft right there. Everything's looking good, and I think I'm gonna get this thing in tonight, and we're gonna walk around and show you guys even more. But wait, there's more. Here's another major upgrade we're doing. Boom, Holley Dominator, baby. Before, the car had a Holley HP computer in it, which is kind of their entry-level computer. But we're stepping it up now. We're going turbos. It's going to be a lot more in-depth, so I wanted everything under one, I guess, screen, you could say. I didn't want separate boost controllers to deal with, separate trans controller boxes, you know, all this stuff to juggle. I wanted everything. I wanted the whole car to be controlled with one computer. So that's why we upgraded to the Dominator. We have transmission control. We now have boost control. We can also set up traction control, all that neat stuff. So yeah, I think it's a pretty good round of mods this time around. So we'll give you guys one more little look here. We're going to give you guys updates throughout the process, and kind of once we get the intercoolers done, mounted up, everything, and the Holley wired up, I'll do another video here. But yeah, this car's coming along. It's going to make a ton of power. It made 505 horsepower to the tire with the blower on 4 pounds of boost. I can't wait to see what this thing does on 10, 15, 18, 20 pounds of boost with twin turbos. With my truck, it made 840 horsepower to the tire on 15, 16 pounds of boost. Now, granted, that was an LS motor, totally different transmission, but these turbos will flow enough air to support roughly 1,500 horsepower. So we got a lot of room to play with. We have a ton of power to make. With that being said, I'm gonna set the camera down and start getting my hands dirty. Okay guys, so right after I made that update video, I went to go install the trans in the car, and to do that I bought a new trans jack, a couple other new tools. Brad, that was hanging out over there in the frame, was helping me install the transmission, because on your back with the car on jack stands, it's kind of a two-man job. It makes it a lot easier with two people. So he was over here helping me out. Well, some bad things happened. We were under the car fighting it, got the transmission up into place, then realized the converter wasn't all the way set, you know, like it wasn't in the transmission as far as it should have been. So pulled the transmission back out and got the converter where it needed to be. And on its way back up, the second time, the transmission slipped and fell off of the transmission jack. And yeah, just check this out, man. This sucks so bad. So here's the bell housing. When it fell, it totally broke this piece off. And this is an extremely important piece because the dowel pins. On this side, the part that's not broken, there's a big pin that comes out of the engine block and locates the entire transmission. And without that, the transmission can go pretty much any which way, because these bolt holes are fairly big and the bolts kind of just float around in there. The dowel pin is the only thing that lines everything up. So, unfortunately, there's a setback here. Now, we could do a couple things. One, we could weld this piece back in, but there's a bunch of things that can happen. There's a big risk there. So You need to perfectly line everything back up again. You need to clean the metal off. You need to grind it, sand it. Aluminum, cast aluminum is really finicky to weld. And also, you put a ton of heat into the transmission with welding something this big. You need to turn your welder way up, and the downside to putting a ton of heat into metal is that it can cause it to warp, twist, move, do funky things. And if we put the transmission back in the car, bolt it all up, and everything's not perfectly aligned, we can cause other issues. The converter could be, just tweaked one way. We can knock out rear main seals. It could just be a whole list of problems. So if we don't weld it, our other option is to get a whole nother case. And unfortunately, we just got this transmission built, like literally like the other day we just got this thing back. So it's gonna have to get all torn back down, and we're gonna swap everything into another case. So now I'm kind of in the stage where I'm going back and forth with myself with, do we just get another stock case like the one here? It's been great, it hasn't broken. This thing's been great for years. Or do we step up and go with an SFI approved, really badass high-end case? A little bit more money, but there's they're back ordered. There's a lead time, a wait time, so I don't know if I'm gonna want to wait all that time. So I'm gonna figure some things out tonight, run some numbers, price some things out, and if it makes sense, we'll go to the really badass aftermarket case, and if not, I'll just go find another good transmission core and just steal the case and swap everything over. So it sucks. Things like these happen. Luckily, no one got hurt. Brad or myself got our hands out of the way in time. This transmission weighs 150 plus pounds with the torque converter in it. So good thing we didn't lose a hand or an arm or a foot. But anyways, that stuff just happens, and we'll get it fixed and get back to it.